diversification. And in fact, Macfarlane used pairs of ancestor and descendant to analyze these rates of change. So this could be one of the, probably the first phylogenetic approach to this subject. The evolution of horses especially has been focused on body size and ipsodonty. Ipsodonty is the height of the teeth. And it has been used for answering questions about Cope's rule or adaptation to new environments and stuff like that. But ever since these studies from the 80s, all this has been tackled from a non-phylogenetical point of view. More recently, instead of just focusing on visual inspection of points through time, Shoemaker and Closet used mathematical modeling to study the evolution of body size in horses, and they found that actually you could model all body size evolution in horses just using a macroevolutionary diffusion, meaning there's no accelerated trait evolution during any of the diversification events of the group. So what we did is we gathered together all the data that we needed to focus in this subject from a phylogenetic point of view. So we put together a tree with 138 species from different sources, and we used PyloTree to create tree distributions that are coherent with all the stratigraphic uncertainty and the topologies from the publications. And we gathered also body size and ipsodonty information, and we fitted a different number of models. So first of all, we wanted to identify parts of the tree where we actually have these diversification pulses. So, well, the early radiation of the horses happened in North America, and then we have these two dispersals into the old world. These are the parents and these are the equids, where all living species, only 6 living species live, stay. So we see that if we plot diversity through time here, all these tribes in North America and all these clades that disperse into the old world have this logistic growth profile that is telling us that actually speciation was faster in the beginning of the history of the group. Actually, you can see here these color branches are representing places where speciation is higher in red. In fact, we can see that American horses reached a plateau in diversity that only was broken when we have dispersals into the old world. So this is like the profile that you would expect in early birth diversification systems. So what we did is we just took all these subpartitions of the tree and fit different models like the usual suspects, Brownian motion, where we have a constant rate of change and no selection or anything. The early bars, which would be what we would expect in a early bars radiation that is correlated with fast morphological divergence. Also, we have two early models where whether the clade can just stay in an optimum or can actually move from the original ancestral optimum to a new optimum. So across all these clades, the first two models were never preferred. Always these two models with different kind of selection pressures were always preferred. So we also fit what they are called multi-region models to see if actually using all these different models for all these subclades made a biological sense, so they were biologically relevant. And in total, we feel like 170 models over 50 different trees with all this uncertainty. And so what we see, what we saw, for example, for body size, is that all body sizes at the very ancestral part of the tree are modeled with stabilization selection. For example, we saw that all these tribes here, Kini and Pig, can be modeled with just one partition. So we don't see any different selective regime in horses that necus that went into the old world. Actually, this clade has also been used for defending the Cope's rule that there is this active selection towards larger body sizes. and this is ruled out by our modeling approach. So bigger sizes here probably just arose by neutral selection and extinction of smaller lineages or something like that, but definitely not by active selection. We can see that American tribes, all these guys here, have very similar body size optima, but these guys that entered the old world, the Aparians, underwent like a really big shift. So here in these guys, we see that entering the old world spurred diversification and actually was coupled with a different regime. For Ipsodonti, we see that all the clades show active trends to increase Ipsodonti through time. But we can see that even tribes within North America, they show completely different ways of evolving. Even that they all show this logistic growth of early radiation. These are connected to completely different ways of evolving. We have guys that reach their optimum very early in their history. We have the American Aparians here in light blue, which are just like growing and growing their teeth, being taller and taller. And these are all living at the same time in the same continent. So they probably were just undergoing different selection regimes. And also there is a completely different regime for guys that enter the old world here, and these guys in dark blue here, which are the Aparians. So the main conclusions is that early birds were not coupled with rapid phenotypic evolution, meaning that we can rule out this idea of a really adaptive perspective for the early radiation of horses and those radiations that came later when these animals entered into the old world. Similar diversity trends, these logistic growths that we saw, are related to completely disparate models of phenotypic evolution. Also, that dispersals into Eurasia and Africa always increase speciation, no matter what. But these dispersals were not always correlated to shift in trait evolution mode. So in some cases we actually see a shift, as we saw for body size. We can enter a new continent and radiate there, but there is no change in the adaptive regime. We see that there is a remarkable flexibility in this optima and in phenotypic rates, but in any case, the diversity trends that we see here seem to be bounded because we see these plateaus in all the cases, and probably controlled by external factors like, for example, early Miocene productivity or landscape heterogeneity has been proposed as factors, and also we have seen that dispersals here are minor factors promoting diversification. So these findings sum up to another findings of other sources challenging the classic view of horse evolution. So, for example, the classic story was like everybody was browsing, then these guys, take advantage of the new grasslands and they just burst. But we now know that probably grass-dominated habitats were really well established by around 25, 24 million years, and we have micro-wear and meso-wear evidence for true grazers, like from 21, 20 million years onwards. So this is really like 4 million years before the actual first diversification pulse of the group. And actually the true Ipsodontids, which are related to really abrasive diets, come much later, around like 40 million years. So all these are like kind of changing a little bit our understanding of all these classic examples that have had all this influence in posterior development of the evolutionary theory. And that's all. Thank you very much.